Station for Palatine, Illinois.
Keep up with everything going on at Harper College, including events, seminars, campus info, fitness classes, art shows, concerts, and more on the Harper College events page. Bookmark events.harpercollege.edu.
Welcome to Global Education Unpacked, to the podcast that explores how global learning transforms the classroom and beyond. I'm your host, Marie Lapidus. Our awesome producer is Matt Byrne, and our theme music is mint by DJ Double Dip. So let us dive in. That's what ChatGPT told me to say. Today we are speaking with Gerardo Cruz, Chair of the World Languages Department and Assistant Professor of Spanish at Harper College. Gerardo brings more than 20 years experience teaching Spanish and has led numerous immersion programs across Central and South America. You know, I changed that, and we can have a little chat about that because it wrote Latin America, and I was like, well, now I'm confused about what I'm allowed to call things, so I put Central and South America, and virtual exchanges that connect students across borders. He's passionate about making global learning personal, meaningful, and accessible, and if you're not, you are now. Welcome, Gerardo. Tell us about yourself.
Thank you, Marie. Well, my name is, as you mentioned, Gerardo Cruz. I grew up in Mexico.
Where?
In Monterrey, and up north of Mexico.
Okay.
Almost like a border with Texas. We have a border with Texas there.
So it was easy to hop over the river.
It was easy to jump at that. We didn't have a wall at that time, but...
All right, sorry, people. We're just making some jokes. Gerardo and I now go back a few years, so
That's
we've
right.
known each other for a while. Okay, so yes, tell us about yourself, because you do have a really interesting story about how you came here. So, how much are you going to share? I don't know.
Yeah, right. I'm in my 20s. I was in Mexico. I was studying law, and then suddenly I decided to drop from college and pursue a different interest in life. I thought I have a call for priesthood, so that's why I immigrated to the United States. I contacted a priest in the United States, and he told me that it was a good idea to come here to Milwaukee, where he was located. Because there were a lot of immigrants from Mexico that many of them didn't know, English, so they need to find somebody who will speak Spanish to them. So I said, well, if I want to be a priest, why not to be in a place that I can be uncomfortable, but at the same time I can serve my people at that time, the people that speak Spanish. So that's how I immigrated to Wisconsin almost 30 years ago.
And how was that, like, you went from rather warm Mexico to Wisconsin?
Well,
how was that?
It was
change.
It was it was great, because that was the first time that I saw the Lake Michigan, flying through the Lake Michigan, and I thought it was an ocean. I was like, oh my goodness, this is too big that it looks like an ocean.
I know.
Where I'm from is semi-desert area, so we're in the valley of between mountains, so there is hardly any water, like Colorado, something like that.
Yeah.
So being in that area in Milwaukee was impressive. And then also I came in the summer, so it was really nice. In my first winter, it was a big storm. It was between 5 and 6 feet of snow. So it was like...
Was that your first snow?
It was my first one.
Ever?
So, yes.
Wow.
So I said, this is beautiful. But then,
Until it happens.
But I had to clean after that, so yeah.
Until the snow happens again and it's not as beautiful anymore. No, I love snow, so I like to cross-country ski, so I'm not against snow. I'm just saying, usually when people come from warmer climates, I'm always surprised that they're like, I think the initial reaction is, oh, this is so cute and whatever, and then it's like, oh no.
It's really cool. I have to wear like 2 pants, 2 socks, 2 pair of socks, a lot of jackets, sweaters, because I didn't know what was, warm. I just was throwing things on me. Walking in the snow, realize that going to take the bus, and mushy snow is not ideal, but I have to do it. So
That's right. So, and then how did you get to Harper? Well, you started teaching, right?
I started teaching after I decided that actually preschool was not for me. There were a couple.
See, students, we want to point out that you can pick a career,
Right.
and then you do some studying and some exploration,
Right.
and then you say, not for me.
Not for me.
And then you try another path.
Right.
And
that's
here you go. And Gerardo is a perfect example of that.
I mean, that's my idea. I was studying law in Mexico, and I thought I was going to be a lawyer.
Yeah.
And then I said, well, maybe not. And I went to no regrets. I came to Milwaukee, wanted to be a priest. Things didn't turn out when I wanted, so it's no regret. I just walk away from that, and I was able to finish my undergraduate degree. And then from there, actually, I was going to go back to Mexico because I came to the idea to be a priest, so it didn't work out. I said, well, nothing else for me to do here than just go back to Mexico. And the director of the seminary in that time, he told me, like, why are you going back? I mean, I said, well, what do you want me to do? I mean, I'm done here. I came not to work, I came to serve as a priest. So then in my last semester in the undergrad, my then professor as well and chair of the World Languages in UWM, Milwaukee, he told me, why you don't get a master's in Spanish? So it seems like you are pretty good in reading and understanding the books and novels. And I said, well, I don't have money. He said, well, you don't have to get, to pay for it. Seems like you're a good student, you have pretty great grades, so you should apply and maybe you get a scholarship to get a master's degree. And I said, well, why not? I don't have nothing to lose, and the only option is to go back to Mexico. So I mean, it was like, why not? Take that chance. So I applied to Marquette, and I got accepted, and I did two years there as doing my master's degree and a teacher assistant. And that's how it got me into teaching. I have to pay my dues by
That's right.
as a TA.
That's right.
I was teaching 2 courses per semester, and I love it. I have fun with the students. They seems that they liked learning Spanish with me, and so it was a great experience. So from there, again, I was like, okay, I'm done with my master's degree. Now time to go to Mexico. Every time I went,
It's always, I'm going to go back to Mexico.
And then again,
And then somebody pulls you back into the United States.
yes, the chair of the World Languages now in Marquette, she told me, well, why you don't apply for a position in the States? And I said, well, why? He said, well, I mean, just apply. Again, you're going to go back to Mexico, apply, and if you don't get a job, before you finish your master's degree, you just go back to Mexico. I mean, like, well, sure. So I applied, and I got a job in January. Because I finished in December my master's, so then the next month I was already working. And then since then I've been teaching Spanish, like an option for me. I mean, and I start growing and loving it. Teach Spanish to students. So.
And how, just, like real quick, you went from being a student and being allowed to stay here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you got a job. How did you end up being able to work here?
Well, I had the chance to get visas. I was sponsored by the university, but then after 2 years, they said, well, you are, we're done with the
sponsorship.
So by then, I was already, I think, 2 years married when they sponsored me. So so I said, well, I guess I need to apply for my citizenship.
Yeah.
And I, to be honest, I didn't want to, because I thought it was part of like who I was, like Mexican. Like, I'm a Mexican, I don't need to be American,
Right.
But I said, well, I think now that I'm here, and since I was not single anymore, they can just walk away.
Right.
I was like, well, I think I not for me, but for the person that was with me at that time,
Right.
I need to be, responsible.
Yes. So how is it being an American versus being a Mexican? Because I'm assuming you consider yourself both.
Right. I mean, I think it's convenience. When I'm a Mexican, when I'm teaching, I'm Mexican. But then it's a privilege that I have as an American. I have the right to vote.
Right.
But I still don't feel like
Take note, us immigrants, first thing we say, what's the advantage of being an American? Oh, we have the right to vote. We
Right.
take that very seriously.
Right. I mean,
Like, very
me
seriously.
too. I mean, I do my research. I mean, now all the time gets my way, but that's the right that I have now.
Right, and we say that, like, I don't think Americans, when they say, what's the best part of being American, say,
Right.
oh, it's my right to vote.
Right.
But when you're an immigrant, you always say, that's my right to vote. That's very
Right.
important.
Yeah, I wouldn't say my insurance or
Right.
or clean water because
Although that's helpful, clean water is helpful.
it is. I mean, in many other places, but I mean, if you go some places in the States, you still don't have clean water.
Yes.
And, so that's the.
Yes, well, there's Flint, Michigan, right?
That's right. So see, that's what I was thinking
fracking,
about that.
right?
Right.
Yes. Well, that's Michigan. That's another thing about the United States. We're very loyal to our states until we're not.
That's
Depends on where we live.
That's right.
All right. So, and then what happened? How'd you get to Harper?
Well, I was.
Because you were teaching in Wisconsin,
Right.
and then you went to Pennsylvania.
in Pennsylvania, and then
Yeah.
I was in Wisconsin, and then my first child was born, and after 3 years, I told to my then wife, I said, you know what, I want my kids to, at least this child, to grow in a community that is more welcoming for diversity. Milwaukee is a nice place, but it's not too open to diversity. This is really segregated city. You have people that are African Americans or black and Hispanic, white, and there's really and there is a river that crosses the city, so it's really you can see where the people are located.
Yeah.
So I said, well, I want my kid to grow up in that environment. And to be honest, there was two options. There was Illinois and there was Pennsylvania, Philadelphia. And I said, well, I think I want to go to Philadelphia. And I was lucky enough, I applied to a position there, and I got the job. So we got everything, and then my second son was already born, so after 1 year he was in Milwaukee, we left to Philadelphia, to community college down there. So, and I spent there 4 years in Philadelphia. But I love Philadelphia, but also we miss the Midwest. So it was
Because,
like,
the snow and the winters and the slush.
I was frustrated. I mean, Philadelphia was surprised. It's an old city, and they still don't know how to deal with the snow. When it feels like maybe 5 inches of snow, they close the streets. Nobody's working. They don't clean the streets. But you get
Who complains about that?
Well, Philadelphia, the community college of Philadelphia was in downtown, and I had to drive to the city,
Yeah.
and the students had to walk to. So it was a pain for them.
Yes.
And I was like, how? I couldn't understand. Coming from Wisconsin, I was like, how they cannot get it? They need to clean the streets, throw salt on the roads. But I was like, wow, this is like one storm per every 10 years. No, they always have snow every year, and they're not able to figure it out.
Yes.
So after that, then I decided to, again, there was another position open in Harper, and I said, well, let me apply and see. Now we're going back to the Midwest, and again, I get the position, and I'm here since 2017. I came to Harper, so.
And how do you like it?
I love it. I mean, this is. The experience that I got here in Harper, people are welcoming. I mean, out there, the Midwest is still, the culture is still like in my back of my head, like, are they really being nice to me? Or because, or they use a Midwest behavior,
Well, so again, I would say that's an immigrant experience, right? You don't know and I hate to generalize here, but with Americans, where you stand necessarily all the time. Like in my culture, it's very straightforward, and with me, right? Like, either you like people or you don't like people, and you know who your friends are, and you like everybody, there is no, like, but in the United States, it's a little bit different. People are friendlier.
Right.
Outwardly like that, but that does not make them your friends.
Right. And that's what I like about Philadelphia. They were really honest like that.
Yeah.
If they didn't like you, they told you your face,
Right.
like, what do you want?
Yeah.
They are rude, but they are kind people.
Yeah.
They tell you. I mean, like, I hear a couple of people coming to me and say, I don't understand what you're saying. And I say, okay, I'm sorry, I need to articulate. Say, yeah, I need to articulate better.
Yeah.
Here, they always told me, like, oh, that's okay. I think I can try to understand you. In Philadelphia, I was like, no, dude. We need to communicate.
Right.
Just tell me what you want, but tell me that I can
Yeah.
understand you, and that's fine with me.
Yeah.
So I like that honesty.
Honesty, yeah. I'm with you on that. So, do you think your early experiences that you had, you started out like law, then you went, you came here for the priesthood, then you went into Spanish. Do you think that actually led you to be a Spanish teacher? Do you feel like your background kind of set you up for that?
Well, partially yes, but also what I think is about my interest to teach the language, to communicate with people. I like to have a conversation with people. Even when I was reading English, my broken English, I try always to make signs or something to get across to the information, and that's what I want with the students. When I'm teaching, I feel like we are similar with each other. It's just the difference is that we don't speak the same language,
Right.
and the language is the bridge to communicate for them to understand each other. So I think that's what pushed me to that path. That I want people to understand, or students or Americans, or those who don't speak Spanish, that people that they are here, they speak Spanish. They are similar to them. It's just if they were open to understand another language, they will be able to see that there is not much difference between one another. We get frustrated with the same things. We get happy with the same things. We like to love the same things. So I think it's just the language that sometimes the barrier, who is like the imaginary barrier that is there, that we don't want to get across because we feel like, oh, that person is strange or is weird. That's
Right.
how they call it.
Yes, that's where.
But I said to them, everybody's weird. Even your siblings are weird. So,
Yes.
I mean, and they speak the same language and parents. So,
Absolutely, I'll own that, and I'm sure they feel the same way about me, my brothers. Do you speak any other languages besides English and Spanish?
I try. I tried many times to learn French, Italian,
Because they
Portuguese.
say those are very close
They are.
to Spanish, but I actually, after studying languages, don't really think that that's true. You could see some similar, when I studied French, and then I came back and I took Italian because I needed to fill more credits when I was at school, and I always would think that I knew some words because I knew it in French, but then I look at the word and go, no, that's not why I know. And then I realized that the Russians had stolen so many Italian words. And that's why I knew those. And it wasn't the French that's supposed to be so close to Italian. It was the Russian that's not close to Italian. But it was that language that gave me a lot of the vocabulary because I was like, how do I know what this word means?
Right.
And then I think about French and I'm like, it's not French.
Right.
It's not English, it's not French, how do I know? And it was the Russian that I had that gave me that. So I don't think I think there's some vocabulary you get and you can see some similarity, but to pronounce it, to communicate in it is not the same.
It's different.
It's
Right.
very different.
But I think that, knowing two languages.
Yes.
Yes, you learn your first language, then your second language. But then if after that you want to learn a third language, or you want to hear other languages, it get easier.
Yes.
Because you can start relating like, okay, this sounds like this. You start like using, your brain to figure out things.
Yes.
And sometimes when we grow up, we just, we learn the first language. And obviously we don't learn how to study it. We just learn it there. But when you learn your second, your third language, you start using like, common sense, like, okay, I can put these things here together. Mm-hmm. And that's how, I don't speak more than two languages, but sometimes I read and I can understand French, Italian, Portuguese, or even like German, I'm using all the tools that I have that I can try to figure out things. how to. I was one time when I was in undergraduate, I was working in the kitchen because I was hungry all the time, so I had to eat something. So it was the best job for me, and I was working with Malaysian students, and they were reading a book, a novel, and I asked them, "What are you reading?" And they showed me the book, and I was. In my brain, I'm pretending to read what they were saying.
Yeah.
So they were surprised because for me, it looked like Spanish. Everything was written is a Latin alphabet. So I was reading it, and they were surprised that I was hearing the target, the words, and they said, I don't know what I'm saying. And they're like, you can read Malaysian. And I said, well, yes, but I don't know what I'm saying.
Right. I had the same when I was looking, to potentially go to Mongolia. They use the Cyrillic Russian alphabet, so I can read everything. I just don't understand it.
Right.
I can probably read and pronounce it, and I would not know what I'm saying.
Right.
So did you teach what language was first for your children here?
Well, for my oldest one was Spanish, and then but for my youngest one is English.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's.
So you gave up.
I gave up.
You gave up for the second one. I will say, my first one had more Russian because I had Russian nannies, and so because I wanted them to learn Russian,
Right.
so I purposefully hired Russian nannies so they could get the Russian, and I tried to speak to them in Russian as much as I could when they were little. So my older one had a nanny longer because the younger one needed a nanny, right? So she kind of had more Russian experience, but they both, they can say things with an accent, they can do, and they don't, conjugate necessarily properly, but they can get their point across, like they know enough words. But they understand a lot, almost everything and stuff. How about your kids? Do they understand Spanish? Can you talk to them in Spanish and they might reply to you in English, but you can talk to them in Spanish?
With this one, I can do that.
Yeah.
With the youngest, he resisted. He's like, nope.
Nope.
No,
Not interested.
No. And it takes like 5 minutes for him to no, tell me in English. So he's fine already.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I'm not gonna get upset.
Well, he's going to have to learn Spanish in school, right? Should have done it when you were a baby.
So I was like, well, that's
You could have done it earlier and gotten an A in that class without any effort.
That's right.
That's right. Okay, so what was the hardest part about learning English?
I think the structure of the sentence, and the prepositions. There's times we only have one, in English you have three, in, at, on, and that was always a pain in the butt.
I never even thought of those. I just was, always confused because the sound of some, as we know, some of the words, they all sound
Right.
the same. They're not necessarily written the same.
Right.
And then the O-U-G-H, that when do you use that? When do you use just you? When do you, you can't know which one to use? That was my, what's the easiest part or the most fun part about teaching Spanish?
I feel like I'm at home. I just come to class and I feel like, okay, this is what I know. So I keep talking to the students in Spanish, and the hardest part is when I teach, 101. When students they don't hardly know any Spanish.
Yeah.
And I got really tired because I try to enunciate everything. I slow down. I repeat things like 10 times. So my first week or 2 weeks, I was super tired when I get home. Because it's just all the energy they spend in those classes.
Yeah.
But besides that, there's the fun thing to teach them or show them music. We talk about food, about culture. I mean, many students just want to learn about Day of the Death because it's the main thing.
Yes.
Or Cinco de Mayo.
Right. That's all the two things that they've seen.
Right.
There's plenty of cartoons now.
Exactly. So and what I want them to learn is that Latin America is not Mexico. Mexico is part of Latin America, but it's not Mexico,
Yeah.
or Spain. There are two countries, but there are 20 more countries in Latin America that they can experience or learn about.
Right.
So that's what I want to teach them, that we can say, one thing in Mexico, but we say in a different way in Guatemala, in Costa Rica, in Argentina. Right. And I think that is what also gets me excited. I'm able to teach them what is beyond what the basic things they know about Mexico. Or Spanish or Spain. Some students went to high school and their teacher went to Spain, and they think that that's the only culture.
Right.
Or they need to speak with a list.
That's right.
So, or they, if they have a Mexican teacher, they think they have to, like tacos all the time. And say, dude, Mexico is more than tacos.
Right.
So, there are more things, and there are countries in Latin America, they don't eat tacos at all. They don't eat spices.
Right.
And that's good to learn those
Right.
things.
Absolutely. So you did a number of immersion programs abroad. So which countries did you visit? Tell us, maybe one that stands out that you had some fun or surprising story or something happened that the students learned,
Well, I have many good stories, and sometimes it's not scary, but not so happy stories. My first country was Costa Rica.
Uh-huh.
When I was in Milwaukee, they wanted to have an immersion place in Latin America or Spain, and I said, well, why don't try some place in Latin America? And I said, well, let's try Costa Rica. And I said, let's do Costa Rica.
Okay.
And I think my first year I took 22 students.
Wow.
By myself. So it was my first experience. I was like, okay, let's go. So sometimes I slept maybe 7 hours, maybe 6 hours. Some days it was just 5 hours, because the students were out and I need to go and hunt them, go and bring them back to their houses. And
22, oh my God.
some students were, they were teenagers, so they think that they talk to a Latino boy or Latino girl and they fall in love. So I have to go and tell them no, that's not love. They just, there's something else, but that's not love. Okay. So broken hearts. So that was part of that.
How long were you there that they had broken hearts?
I was there for almost 17 days. So, after 3 days dancing salsa, they felt like, oh my goodness,
They're all in love after the salsa.
Right. So I went to Costa Rica, I went to Guatemala, Mexico, Peru, Ecuador, in Cuba. That was the countries that we visited.
How was Cuba?
It was beautiful. I love Cuba. There was,
How did you get there? How were you allowed?
Well, it was during the Obama time, so we were able to go to from Pennsylvania to Cuba.
Okay.
So we didn't have any problems.
Well, I think they allow anything that has to do with education. That's the way that you can go into Cuba.
That's true.
From the United States. So yeah. Okay.
So it was beautiful. It is a poor country, but people are great. Really friendly, kind. There's the most. I've seen, where I see in the country. All people are wonderful, but I believe that Cubans are really people that want to give what they have, and that's amazing. They have rice, they want to share the plate of rice with you. They have a Coca-Cola, and it's 200 milliliters of, they're have less than a liter, and they want to share with 4 people,
Yeah.
And it's freaking hot down there, so you hardly get any, liquid, but they want to share it.
Yeah.
And that's what amazed me of them. They whatever they have, even they don't have almost nothing, they want to give you that. So
Maybe that's the communist thing, right? Like we're all on the same boat and we share everything, right, between people.
And they don't expect anything back. They don't say, well, give me nothing. It's just I have a soda, let me share with you.
Yeah.
And they leave. They are like, hey, just if they give you a soda, nothing. It was just a moment.
Yeah.
So it was beautiful about Cuba.
That's awesome. What were, besides falling in love and salsa, what were the most important things you think for the students? And what about you? What did you think were the key things that you learned when you went over?
Well, for me, how to deal with stress. You know, this is not is vacation, and many people may think, you know, this is not having fun for me, but
Right.
it's just for them to enjoy the culture, to learn to enjoy the language when they are there, to show them that when they hear the language, they can use it on there, and they feel like, yes, I can communicate with people. Sometimes many students don't do it here. You know, after the classroom, they leave. They don't want to talk with anybody in Spanish, or they feel embarrassed. They are being judged. And when they go to those countries, they realize that nobody's judging. Nobody cares. I mean, that, oh my goodness, you say taco, and that's embarrassing. Nobody cares. They're like, okay, sure. How many tacos? I mean, it's just that it comes to the brain like, oh, this is normal. I mean, it's okay to have an accent. It's okay to not know everything. And I think the students grow up in that sense. You know, they have that sense of they feel comfortable. And sometimes when you expose them to be in a comfortable situation, they grow as person, and they realize that, you know, sometimes you have to struggle in life, but it's not the end of the world.
Right. So, question for you: did you ever feel embarrassed of your English?
There were times, yes. When I was embarrassed, and when I used to go to the drive-through. Sometimes I panic, like, so I just say 1, 2, whatever, you know, rush, and that's it, you know, because it was hard for me to say the
Well,
words.
it's hard to understand what they're even saying to you through those systems.
The speakers, right.
Speakers. Yeah.
So yeah, I get sometimes embarrassed or there were some words that I used. I remember, I mean, I don't know if I can say this on air, but I remember was this guy.
Well, don't say anything bad on air.
So, I mean,
we do have a dump button, but still, don't say anything bad.
I was confused between saying guy and gay.
Oh, yeah.
And in my brain, I was saying guy, you know. And so I said, well, yeah, they were talking about Larry, a person in Milwaukee, and I said, yeah, he's a really nice gay. And everybody froze. I was like, no, really, he's really nice gay. And I was like, okay. Okay, well, thank you. And so I was like, oh, wow, I guess.
What did you say?
And I said, well, maybe they don't like him, you know.
Yeah.
So then I met Larry and said, Larry, you know, I don't know if you noticed, but I was with this group of people, and I told them that you are a really nice gay. And he started laughing like crazy. And I said, I mean, but you are. And he said, no, I think what you meant is guy. And maybe that's why they felt uncomfortable, because maybe you were saying, you tried to say he's a really nice guy, but if you would say guy, they will be yes,
Yeah.
but you say gay, so they felt like maybe.
You know something that they don't.
So, then it was a long time for me to be comfortable saying things, you know.
Right. I totally
In
understand.
my brain, I had, okay, he's a nice guy, okay, guy.
Right.
So I have to enunciate and then say it aloud so I can hear it.
Right.
And and there are many words like that, you know, like.
I still mess up words, and I just kind of gloss over it, and they're like, yeah, it was not the right way to say that. But yeah, I totally get that. So you've been involved in virtual exchanges at Harper.
That's right.
So you had one with Chiapas. We just had some visitors from Chiapas and
Right.
Yucatan. So tell us about that. And what do you think about that versus taking students?
Well, there are different. I want to say different beasts, different tools.
Yeah.
I think if the students travel to the countries, the experience is totally different. They panic. But they grow, you know. It's like a moment, you know. What is that? Hide, fight, and run.
Something like that.
So I mean,
The psych stuff.
right. So I mean, I think things like that, the students have it.
Yeah.
When they're in the country, they have to. They hit the survival mode.
Yes.
That I have to. In order for me to ask food to my hosting family, I need to speak the language. And the virtual option is more relaxing for the students. They interact, they learn about the culture, but they are more flexible. They have the opportunity to use other tools, to use a dictionary, to use a translation, something that they will help them communicate, but they are more relaxed. They have the control of what is happening. When they're in the country, sometimes they don't have the control. They have to go with the flow.
Right. So what's the advantage of having a virtual exchange?
That we target more students that way.
Yeah.
Traveling, sometimes students don't have the resources. They don't have the opportunity to go. They are busy, work, life, and that limits them to go to experience that. In the virtual exchange, everybody have the same opportunity to do it, and there is no worries about they have kids, they have to work, they have other classes, or they cannot just leave the country for
Right.
2 weeks, or even not even a week. Sometimes we don't think about how the struggles of a student goes through, even to register for classes. These are we may say, well, the course may be $500, but for them, it's maybe half of a paycheck or something that they don't have
Right.
immediately.
Right.
So ask them to go for $2,000, $3,000 for 2 weeks. I mean, for maybe a person that works 4 hours a day and they don't have anything else, maybe it's still a struggle. So for students, I think for some of them, it's double the struggle to do that.
I also think it gives them an opportunity to have some immersion, right?
Right.
Like they may not get all of the immersion, but they get a little bit, and instead of going home and not speaking to anybody, let's say in Spanish or whatever, they have to speak in Spanish a little bit,
Right.
in practice.
Right, and
which they may not get anywhere else.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, at least they have these other partners in Mexico that they talk, they receive texts, they receive phone calls.
Right.
So they interact in a sense with them.
Right.
They may not have the same, experience, music or transportation, whatever, but at least they have something.
Right.
So that's,
And they learn about some other people and just, in general, wherever they are, right? Just learning about other people. Do you think your experience having come from Mexico leads you to influence your desire to create these experiences for students?
I think so. I think what excuse me, what I learned and what I went through wanted to push students to have that same experience, and when I those experiences came without me being aware of that, By me doing those to the students is I bring awareness to them, like, okay, this is what may happen to you. Let's do this. It's going to be useful for you in the future. When I came here, I was like, okay, this is new, but I was not appreciating what was happening to me until.
Because you're in survival mode. That's what you are. You're in
Right.
survival mode until you're not.
Exactly.
Right.
So that's what I said to the students, okay, this is going to happen. So I prepare them.
Yeah.
And with the idea that hopefully, that will click faster than it happened to me.
Right.
So for them, okay, you're going to expect this. You may panic in the beginning of the semester.
And
but
it's okay.
Exactly.
Right, it's okay.
So I talk to them in that way. That
Yeah.
this may happen to you. It's going to help you in the future. Maybe not next semester, but maybe in 2-3 years you're going to say like, oh yes, I had that experience. So that's why I want them to have.
Yeah, I agree. So we're getting close. So I'm going to do some fast fire questions
Oh,
for
my
you.
goodness. Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to make sure I hopefully say it correctly. So coffee or mate?
Coffee, cafe.
What's mate? Explain to people because I had to look it up. So why don't you tell us what it is?
Mate is tea from South America, from
Okay.
Argentina and Chile. Usually, sometimes Uruguay, they drink it. And there's hot herbs. They put it in. Well, it's herbs, and they put it in hot water, and
Okay.
they drink it.
Okay.
Like coffee. I mean, it has a lot of energy. They gives you energy.
Okay.
It's healthy for you.
Oh.
Bitter. And I mean, just the taste. I don't like mate that much. It's coffee. Coffee you can put cream or milk. You can make it more
Palatable.
right,
Yes.
friendly.
Friendly,
But mate. I mean, I tried mate, and it's great.
Yeah.
So
Okay. I'm going to have to look into that. Okay. Tacos or empanadas?
tacos.
Tacos.
Yes.
Salsa or reggaeton?
Reggaeton.
Yeah?
Yes.
Do you dance?
I don't dance. I like reggaeton. With reggaeton, you have to dance. With salsa, you have to know the steps.
Okay. I'll give you that. Costa Rica or Cuba?
Oh, that's a good one.
Or a third one if you want to throw one in there. But you can't pick Mexico because you're from Mexico.
Right,
You have to pick something else.
To be honest, if I had to pick one, I mean, I love those two countries, but I really got surprised with Peru.
Yeah?
I love Peru. The mountains, the people. I mean, the llamas. I mean, it was amazing how to seeing kids going to school for walking 5 miles one way, and get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, walk, and we think that it's cold. Here, they walk in the mountains. It's cold,
Yeah.
and they come back, in the afternoon, another 5 kilometers back, and like nothing every day.
Every day.
Yes. So
Yeah.
I love. If I had to choose a country, I would say Peru.
Peru. Okay. Siesta or fiesta?
Oh, fiesta, definitely.
No naps for you.
Yeah, my mom used to say, you're gonna sleep when you pass away. So.
I've been seeing a lot of stuff about how sleep is very important to your health. So
That's true.
But I'm with you. Like, I'm probably more of a fiesta girl. All right, thank you so much, Gerardo, for coming, joining me today, sharing your story. I think it's really important for people to hear about what is happening, how we have all the different kinds of faculty with different backgrounds and what they bring to Harper and what you bring for your students and how you, encourage them to have experiences like you did so that they can have, a better future and, learn from that. If you enjoyed this conversation, please follow us on Instagram at Global Ed Unpacked. You can also watch the recorded show on our YouTube channel, Global Education Unpacked, and listen to the audio version when I put it out there on your favorite podcast platform. Still haven't done that. This episode was recorded live at WHCM Radio in Palatine, Illinois, 88.3 FM, produced by Matt Byrne and features theme music by DJ Double Dip. It's called Mint. You can find him on any of your music providers. He's got fabulous other music, so please check him out. Thank you for listening, and until next time, keep exploring the world through education.
Harper College Music Machine, WHCM 88.3 FM, Palatine, Illinois.